Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg, episode 240. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, that is quite a few, but oh, hold on. Um, okay. Something's not right with the. There's probably like a bit of an echo. Um, we're playing Days Gone. God damn it. Okay, hold on. Jesus, I haven't used. Yeah, the fucking echo. Okay, I know. Okay. That fixes the echo for the moment. We're playing Days Gone. It's on PS4 only. I haven't used my like Elgato capture device I don't remember the last time I had to use it. Because everything I do is pretty much on PC now, except for these rare exclusives. And so I just like fired it up, and of course there's issues. But I want to talk about Days Gone because I'm not going to do an LP of it, so I still want to talk about it. I mean, I guess we can just do with this without game audio. Which I suppose I can't hear the audio anyway, but alright, hold on. Let me see if there's like a soundtrack to this game. I'm sure there is. There we go. That's something. Alright, it's something. Okay, so let's talk about Days Gone then. I decided to not do a Let's Play of it because I thought it would just be too open world. I thought it was going to be like another Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a game that I had started doing an LP of, and eventually I dropped it. And then when I came back to it on my own and played through Horizon Zero Dawn, I ended up really, really enjoying it. So I didn't want to have sort of the same experience here. And it turns out the game it has a pretty similar format to Horizon Zero Dawn. It's basically like Horizon Zero Dawn, but with zombies in the Pacific Northwest. Which probably, I mean, that's the premise. It's zombies in the Pacific Northwest. Like, that's it. It's not as polished, though, as a game such as Horizon Zero Dawn or Red Dead or something similar. I think I've gotten a little spoiled in recent years. You know, we've had games like Spider-Man and God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn and Red Dead and, you know, all, like, these just amazing AAA, big, huge titles. You know, if Horizon Zero Dawn, or if Days Gone had come out like 4 years ago, it would have been really like, oh wow, look at this, this is awesome, what a great zombie game, this is awesome. As it is, though, it's just a good game. Like, why do I feel like this? I hate soundtracks like that are like, let's have these really quiet moments for quite a while, and then suddenly let's just bring in some just bass beats and just my biggest pet peeve when I'm looking for music for exploring videos. Anyways, it's a game that does a lot of things decently, but doesn't really do anything spectacularly. The one thing that it does that is, like, really cool are the hordes of zombies. They're not zombies. They're freakers. They're not technically zombies. It's more like I Am Legend, I guess. But whatever. Occasionally, not during the day, this only happens at nighttime, but occasionally you'll come across like huge groups of freakers, of enemies, like hordes. Like, there can be like 100 or 200 of freakers in these hordes, and it looks really cool, and it's really like, holy shit, it makes your butthole pucker a little bit when you see this, like, coming over the hill. So that's like the one thing it does really well, and that's really cool. Most of the times, though, you sort of the freakers are pretty sparsed out because it's more manageable. But I'm pretty early in the game, so maybe later on it gets absolutely insane. And during the day, it's kind of interesting because these freakers are nocturnal. They're like light sensitive or something like that. So during the day, you can sort of you can run around and ride around with without care. There are like bandits and things like that do attack during the day, so you always have to worry about something, but there's no giant hordes during the day. But the cool thing is, during the day, these hordes exist. Like, here you go. This is what you might find during the day, is like 4 of them. And that's manageable. But during the day, these hordes are somewhere. You know, they don't just, like, despawn. And so I was just roaming through, like, this mountainous region on foot. I was just checking things out. And I saw, like, a cave. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's in this cave. Maybe there's treasure in this cave. And so you start walking into the cave, and it's really dark. You can't see the shit. But then I start to see, like, things moving. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then you start to see everything move, and it's like 50 zombie things that just are all starting to wake up because they notice me walk in their cave. And it's like, oh, shit. So sprinting away from this zombie horde, that was pretty exciting. So the game starts out pretty linear, pretty structured. And so at first I was worried. I was like, uh-oh, maybe this is more structured than I thought it was. But eventually it really opens up. And you get a motorcycle. That's your mode of transportation. And it's decent. It's better than a horse. Um, you have to keep it filled up with gasoline, and you can upgrade it. Not like you can't add like machine guns to it or something like that, but you can upgrade the essential parts, and you get custom paint jobs, and it can bust, it can break down. You got to get it fixed with scrap and blah blah blah. And yeah, a lot of the game is just a lot of concepts borrowed from other games we've already played. You're still running around and you're collecting rags and bottles and stuff to make Molotov cocktails, and you're finding med kits, and you're scavenging for ammo, and you're finding melee weapons that have limited durability, and so on and so forth. You get better guns. There's a skill tree. There's a skill tree for melee and for firearms and for survival abilities, and it's just like, these are all things we're pretty familiar with at this point. The main character, Deacon St. John, the voice actor, usually I don't care, but something about this voice actor just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know who it is, but it's not like, it's no Troy Baker or something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, overall, it's not a bad game, but it's not an amazing game. I wouldn't recommend paying $60 for it, is what I'm saying. But down the line, if you're looking for some open world zombie action, and you can pick it up for $30, yeah, it's worth that. It's just not like the truly amazing next-gen zombie game that some of us maybe were hoping for. It's just a decent game. And yeah, I wish it was on PC, because the load times are not spectacular. There's not like an overwhelming amount when you're just running around, which is good. But when you first boot up the game and during like story missions and things like that, it can get a little obnoxious. But overall, it's decent. I've been playing it, and I'm going to keep playing it, so can't complain that much. Let's move on then. Oh, I guess my biggest complaint about this game is it feels just kind of sluggish. It feels sort of like Red Dead in the sluggish aspect. Whereas, I want the gunplay to feel more like Uncharted, but it feels more like Red Dead. That would be my biggest complaint. So this week on this channel, just yesterday or the day before, we finished up Sekiro. It's just a quality LP, I think. No real problems there, except for, you know, the fake early ending I had. Not fake, but, you know, the fake out. We also have Final Fantasy 15, which has 6 parts left. I decided, as I mentioned, not to LP this game, so I'm gonna do Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. And after Metroid 2, because Metroid 2 is not, let me check. Metroid 2 is not a massive LP either. Let me see how many parts are in that. Metroid 2 is a 5-part LP. Yeah. I doubt I'm going to have something ready to go new after that. Like a new game. So I could go into Super Metroid. The thing with Super Metroid is I'm really, really unhappy with the LP I did of that. And so I think I'm going to have to redo it. The reason I'm unhappy with it is because I didn't do base Super Metroid. I got caught up in this sort of ROM-hacked Metroid games. Just like small alterations and things like that. So I played a ROM hack of Super Metroid. Because I figure, like, Super Metroid is, the base game is so familiar to people. It would be interesting to do something a little different. The problem was, I thought, while I was playing it, I thought it was going to be more different than it ended up being. And so I started, like, questioning my own knowledge of the game. It's hard to even explain, but I was like, okay, in the original game, I'm supposed to go here and do it this way. But this is a ROM hack. It's all going to be different. So I should go this way because it's going to be different. Like, basically stuff like that. And then I fuck around for a while and I'm like, oh, wait. Let me try what the original shit is. And it ended up, like, 9 times out of 10 just being the original. So they didn't change that much, but I thought they did. And that got me really messed up. So in my opinion, it's a really sort of annoying LP. Because it makes me look like doubly incompetent. So I think I'm just going to redo the LP with the base game and just... that's it. But, I mean, that LP was only like 5 parts as well. That's not a massive game either. Well, if you're just going through and playing through to the end, it's not a massive game. But then we go into Super Metroid, Metroid Prime, which I recorded 4 parts, and then I stopped. So I have a lot more Metroid stuff to record. Let me just look at game releases. I don't know if there's anything really notable coming out in May. I'll double check. Oh, there's Rage 2. I don't know how much of an LP... I usually don't do LPs of, like, first-person games, though. Just first-person shooters. So... yeah. Yeah, it looks a little dry. The summer drought is becoming real. Um, so we might just be doing a lot of retro stuff, which I know does not interest everyone. My retro stuff rarely does as well as like a new game. Um, maybe something will come out on Steam or something that will interest me. Katana Zero did come out. Which was like a 2D sort of indie, like Hotline Miami-esque game. And I could have done an LP of that, but I just bought it. I beat it in like a day. I just played a lot of it. It's a really fun game. I recommend it. But maybe I should have done an LP of it. But yeah, I guess we're just in the retro territory now. As boring as that might be to some. It's the summer drought, man. It happens every year. This week on the Exploring series, we released 2 videos about robots. Coincidentally. One was Anderson Robotics, and the other was about Necrons. Very different robots, but robots just the same. The Anderson Robotics video was a bit more popular than the Star Signals one as far as views go. I still don't know what went wrong with that Star Signals video, although someone did comment on the Anderson Robotics video and they said, finally a new video. Now, I don't know if they meant like a week has gone by and finally there's a new video, or if they meant 2 weeks have gone by and this is the first new video they've seen. I don't know, but someone else commented on, I think, the Necrons video and said, why does YouTube keep unsubscribing me from your channel? Now, both of those are not unheard of problems with YouTube. You know, sometimes videos don't appear in subscription boxes, and sometimes YouTube does randomly unsubscribe people from channels for some reason. So I don't think people, like, there's been like a mass problem of unsubscriptions. I think I would have noticed. So I don't think that's the problem, but there could be a subscription box thing, although I didn't see that many comments about it either, so I don't know. But regardless, I got a bunch of comments in the Anderson Robotics video of people that were unhappy with my pronunciation of Oregon. As far as I understand, Oregon is like the correct pronunciation. I even looked it up. I mean, I looked at plenty of discussions. And it's Oregon. Like, I even saw, like, t-shirts that had on the shirt the word, like, Ori, and then a picture of a gun. because that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. It's Oregon. Oregon. But I had some people say, as a Oregonian, you should know it's pronounced Oregon. Which I don't think so. Oregon is how, like, people from the Midwest sometimes pronounce Oregon. And that's why I double-checked, because I was like, I don't think it's Oregon, although I do hear that fairly commonly around these parts. I had one guy say it's 2 syllables. It's very similar to just saying organ. It's organ. Organ. It's like, dude, it's Oregon. That's how it's pronounced. I probably should have been paying attention when I was playing through this game, because this guy does like a radio station that pops up occasionally. I think it just did a few minutes ago. And it's called like Radio Truth Oregon or something. I probably should have checked how he pronounced it. But see, this is the thing. This is the thing. And it just pisses me off. It's my biggest pet peeve with being a YouTuber, is pronunciation. Because there are words where it does not matter how I pronounce something. There will always be someone that just, that's not how it's pronounced. What they really mean is, that's not how I pronounce it. That's what they mean, but that's not what they say. That's the thing you sort of learn. Is that there are many people on the internet that are completely certain of their own knowledge. This is probably true in life as well. It's just I don't go outside. I only go on the internet. You know, people that are so convinced of their own knowledge on a subject or a topic or a word that there is no room for discourse. There is no room in their minds for the potential of them being incorrect. I'm right, everyone else is wrong, is the basic mentality for these people. Because if I had pronounced it Oregon, I would have gotten far more comments about how stupid I am. And in that case, I think they would have been correct. But those few people that are like, yeah, it's Oregon. This he's got it right now. I don't know what that Oregon shit is, but now he's rocking and rolling. If I would have pronounced it Oregon, well then, yeah, I'd have been flooded. There are times where I'll admit I've just been blatantly wrong with my pronunciation. But the point remains that no matter how I pronounce things, I'm incorrect to somebody. We hit nighttime in Days Gone, so maybe we can find a horde. But I'd first like to find a fuel can. Because I feel like I'm about to run out. Well, it's not a feeling. I know I'm about to run out. So you want to find a tow truck, because they always have a fuel can. But anyways, oh, yep, there we go. Come on, make that jump. Oh! Damn it. Oh, see that? Radio Free Oregon. I'll have to listen to how he pronounces it. Anyways, both videos I released this week did as expected. But I worked on a video on SCP-2480, I believe is the number, an unfinished ritual. This is a SCP related to Sarcasm. I think maybe it got a mention in the Sarcasm video. I don't quite remember. It's a lengthy video and it ended up being like 29 minutes total. And it's an SCP that I really enjoy. It's very Lovecraftian. It's basically like if Lovecraft lived today and wrote for the SCP Wiki. Well, I mean, he wouldn't have written it as it is, but it would be probably a fairly similar concept. It borrows a lot from, like, Shadow over Innsmouth and From Beyond and things like that. So it borrows from a bunch of Lovecraft stories. And it's just a pretty good one. I'm glad... I think that I did a pretty good job with it. You know, I don't like to toot my own horn. Well, sometimes I do, but that's for another discussion. But I think it turned out pretty well. The artwork is not stupendous, as in, I couldn't find anything that specific. I borrowed a lot of just pictures of Innsmouth, because this is about like a coastal town in Massachusetts filled with weird people. So it's basically the same. So it's an SCP I really enjoy, and I think it turned out really well. And what's more is this is the sponsored video. This is the ExpressVPN sponsored video. So all in all, I hope this video does really well. I've got high hopes. There's not much else to really say. Alright, we found our gas can. Yeah, so you know, if all goes well, I don't get screwed by YouTube or anything like that with unsubscribing or not putting it where it needs to be and blah blah blah. If all goes well, it could be a fairly lucrative video, which is nice. It's nice that it's a video that I'm actually pleased with. It's not like one of those videos where I don't even want to release it because I hate it so much. It's a video I'm happy with. It's an SCP I like. It should all be pretty good. And the lucrativeness is important right now. I'm looking at houses, doing the house hunt. Just the very preliminary phases. I haven't gotten like pre-approved for anything, or I haven't talked to anybody. I'm just keeping eyes open, which is pretty exciting. I think I probably don't want to go like too high end with things. I want to be pretty modest for like my first solo house. Really just because this YouTube thing is very iffy, you know. Like this whole SCP thing, the whole exploring series, it could go up in smoke before my very eyes. So I want to be cautious. In other words, I'd rather have... What the hell did he just do? I'd rather have like a lesser house that is like paid off than like a mansion that I can't afford. I think that's prudent. Can I just fill my fucking motorcycle? Jesus Christ. And, you know, I've got other things to keep in mind that I have to finance. My parents' business is not exactly exploding with revenue. And so they've been having to borrow money from me. Which I don't really have a problem with, but I don't want to be in a position where they need money and I don't have it to borrow to them. I am planning a trip to Japan next year. So that's something. That trip has actually been getting bigger. Not in like length of time or anything, but we're starting to invite other people. And there's some interested parties. I think Thomas, who some of you may know from role manging, I think he might be joining us, which will be pretty interesting. If there's one person that I'd like to take to Japan, it's Thomas, just because he he generally has the... He's basically like our version of Carl Pilkington. He's not that dumb, I suppose, as Carl, as you know, but he provides a lot of the same interesting commentary. So that's who I'd want in Japan, just to have those comments. Beyond that, you know, a couple other friends may be interested. We'll see. What is going on here? Oh, damn. Why are you shooting me? You're being attacked by zombies behind you, and you shoot at me. What an asshole. We'll see, though. It's a bit of an investment to head to Japan for 10 or 12 days or whatever we're doing. So we shall see how it ends up, but at the very least, I know I'm going, unless something really catastrophic happens. And I plan on recording some footage there. Probably just on like my phone, but something. And I plan on making an exploring video when I get back. Exploring Japan. Which will probably be slightly comedic. And a little bit I mean, this would go on the main exploring channel. So I want it to be as good as it could be. But we'll see how that all turns out. Ba, 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 ba. Speaking of role manging, we had some role manging this week. This was supposed to be like a prelude to the full Call of Cthulhu campaign. Which is often a pretty decent idea. If you're planning a big Call of Cthulhu campaign, you know, a many session one, it's often a pretty decent idea to have like a session one that's like a small adventure that gets all the characters situated, introduces them to one another, and maybe sets up like a connection to the big campaign. That's what I thought this was going to be. That's not what this was. This was just Ziggy wanting to run an adventure. And I think had any character survived, it was possible that they could have moved over into the big campaign. But that's not what happened. When you're doing that, when you have a setup adventure that goes into the campaign, you generally want to be a bit more lenient. Like, for example, when... Oh, we might actually see a horde here. Yeah. That's a small one, but... It's like World War Z. It's very cool. Which there actually is a World War Z video game now, which I heard wasn't terrible. So most of the horde ran off. What we got left with some stragglers. When you're doing that sort of setup, when I did Masks of Nyarlathotep most recently... Fuck. I believe I ran an adventure... I don't remember what it was called, but it was one of like the starting or the provided adventures in the rulebook, the core rulebook. So it was a pretty basic one. But I included a hook. I included like a connection to Masks of Nyarlathotep. So I think like they did the adventure with God, I don't remember his name. The main guy, the main catalyst of Masks that dies at the start. I don't remember his name, but he like went along with them on the adventure. Oh yeah, you get to kill little zombie kids in this game, so if that interests you, that's a plus. So they had that connection with this character that was going to be in the campaign, and that gave them all like, instead of just at the start of the campaign being like, oh, you know this guy, he's your friend, oh no, he's dead. They at least have all had an adventure with this guy. And, you know, he's proven himself to actually be a friend. It makes it a little bit better. And also when I did that adventure, I was a bit more lenient with their survivability. You know, RPGs are not like movies, and you know, consequences are often in the characters and the player's hands. But when you're setting up this big campaign, to have them die in the first hour, it's just kind of lame. So if they did really something really stupid, yeah, they're probably gonna die. But if they play it smart enough and they play through the adventure, I'm probably gonna let them live. You know, I'm probably not gonna throw anything. I might fudge dice results and stuff like that. You know, just so it's not stupid unfair and it's like, you did everything right, but well, you still died. I'm sorry. Make a new character for this campaign. So I was a bit more lenient. I think that made for a better start to the campaign. And they all really liked that adventure that I ran. All of them survived. They all enjoyed it. Bada bing, bada boom. Ziggy did not do this. Pretty clearly. The adventure we had took place in Scotland. It was on like a small island off the coast of Scotland. And we were doing pre-generated characters. So this adventure had some pre-generated characters provided. We decided to save time. So our choices for the characters were like 2 seamen, a second mate or something like that, and an assistant lighthouse keeper. Because this adventure revolves around a lighthouse. And I was like, oh, a lighthouse keeper. He seemed the most unique of the 4, so I was like, I want to be the lighthouse keeper. Little did I know, the Lighthouse Keeper in the book, the pre-generated character of the Lighthouse Keeper, had a typo on his stats. His intelligence was probably meant to be a 14, but in the book it was written as 4. And that's what Ziggy wrote on the character sheet. He mentioned this to me when I picked the character. And he's like, it's probably a typo. I think it's supposed to be 14. And I'm like, well, it says 4. So I played it as 4. I assumed it was also a typo. And I confirmed this after the session. Because you generate your intelligence by rolling 2d6 and adding 6. So you can't actually have less than an 8 intelligence for a character. This makes sense because intelligence determines part of your skill points. So you don't want, like, yeah, that's just how it is. So 4 intelligence is impossible in Call of Cthulhu, but I went with it. I rolled with it. I mean, obviously, my character's skill points were based on having a 14 intelligence. But for the purposes of role-playing, I went with 4 intelligence. Which is funny, because I was basically a Scottish sloopy. So, I wanted to do a Scottish accent. I was excited about that. And I decided, okay, doing a Scottish accent, for me, it's either Groundskeeper Willie or Sean Connery. Those are the 2. That's the 2 Scottish accents in the world. I decided it would be funnier and easier for my 4 intelligence character to have the voice of Sean Connery. So that's what I went with. None of the others attempted a Scottish accent. I was bummed out. So we've got Scottish Sloopy with with 4 intelligence and the voice of Sean Connery. And there's this lighthouse on this little island, and there's a crew of 4 people that man this lighthouse, which seemed like a lot, but okay. Because whenever you think of like a lighthouse keeper, it's always just like the one guy living out on his lonesome. But okay, this had 3 people that were always at the lighthouse, and one person would be on the shore, on the mainland, and they would do a rotation. So my character, it was his time. He had just finished his shore leave, and he was heading back to the lighthouse. He had a parcel that he was supposed to deliver to one of the other lighthouse keepers. So this was not his parcel. It did not belong to him. It belonged to one of the other lighthouse keepers. And I feel like some characters, like, immediately they would just tear into this package because it's like, whatever. I want to see what's inside. But I figured my character, he's going to respect this person's possessions. Why? I'm just beating up random yokels on some street, some road. Bob's Road. I'm getting my ass handed to me because I can't roll. He has not learned the ability to roll at this point in his life. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do other than just hammer the button. And I lost. My character is going to respect this person's possessions, and I never opened it. I never opened that package. So that was good. That's role playing. It's funny because opening that package is pretty much essential to actually completing the adventure. Little did we know. So we arrive on the island, and of course it's deserted. Nobody's there. We enter the lighthouse. We find like a shotgun and a bunch of empty shells. There was apparently some scuffle. There's like a tipped over chair. Somebody's food, like their lunch, is still sitting there uneaten. And we also found a bunch of like weird little black pellets on the ground near the fireplace. And so, of course, I took an empty shell for the shotgun, or I did something with a shell for a shotgun shell, and I filled it with like the pellets because I thought, like, what if this is like some ultimate fucking weapon? You never know. Maybe that was too intelligent for my 4 intelligence, or maybe that was right on the mark of 4 intelligence. I don't know. We kept on going up. The whole place is empty. None of the other lighthouse keepers are there. We get to the top, and the light of the lighthouse had been out, had been non-functioning for some time, and so that's what we were supposed to be investigating. And so, we refueled the lamp. And I started up the crank. And we got the lighthouse going again. Now, normally, this is a job that's supposed to be done in shifts. Because you have to like keep cranking the light mechanism so it keeps rotating. This has to be done like every 40 minutes or something like that. But I was the only lighthouse keeper there. The others were just like part of the ship crew that brought us here. So I was like, I'm gonna keep standing here, and I'm gonna keep working the light until I'm relieved. So I stayed out there like all night. Damn it. And there was also a bell. The lighthouse had its own bell. I don't remember the original purpose of the bell. It was supposed to be rung, like, sparingly. This was not a robust bell. But my character assumed that the other lighthouse keepers were somewhere on the island, and they needed to come back home. And so he just continually rung the bell non-stop until it just broke. Just shattered. And then he just spent the rest of his time like weeping as he tried to fix it. So I'm up there, like, it's raining, it's cold as hell. I'm crying while trying to fix this bell. I'm keeping the light going. And eventually, we are attacked by the creatures that took care of the other lighthouse keepers. These were like floating, glowing brains, basically, that had a bunch of tentacles. And there were a number of them. There were like 3 or 4 of them. So as soon as one like comes up over the edge of the lighthouse, up towards the top, I fired off like some shotgun rounds at it. It didn't do much. I think I missed both of them. Just completely wildly missed. And so the creature did some sort of attack to me. It cast some sort of magic spell. And it caused my character to instantly, like, devolve. So I went through, like, all the evolutionary phases in reverse order until I ended up as, like, a puddle of primordial ooze. And I think Studs' character witnessed this. Oh no, maybe it was Thomas. It was Thomas's character. He witnessed it. Like he was just coming up like the door to the top when he witnessed this. So he just immediately like closed the door and sealed it. He had read like this book or something, a note or something about these protective symbols. He found these symbols and they were mentioned as like symbols of protection. So he was carving these symbols like everywhere, like all in the doors and wardrobes and the trapdoor, just all over the place. He was putting these symbols, hoping that these creatures would not pass. Past these symbols. Damn it. He, oh, shit. Oh, shit. So I got the fourth character, which was like another seaman or something like that. This guy was a religious man. He had a proper intelligence, but he was a brawler. He had some fists and some strength. He was a man of God, and he was gonna pummel these brains into submission. He, um, baseball bat axe. That's pretty badass. So he comes up to the front of the lighthouse. He's pounding on the door, which they locked, of course. So they're coming down to investigate. He sees one of these brain creatures coming down the lighthouse. And he thinks it's some sort of demon. So he's waiting for it to come down so he can uppercut it into submission. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. And the others just pull me inside before I get a chance to uppercut this thing, which was a bit of a bummer. I would have lost, as it turns out, but still. So they pull me inside, they explain the situation as they understand it, and they tell me that the flare gun and the shotgun are both on the top of the lighthouse, where my previous character died. He had both the flare gun and the shotgun. And I'm like, well, I'll go retrieve it. I'm not afraid of some weird devils. Where the hell is this guy? So I go up there. I think Studs' character follows me. I get the shotgun. I get the flare gun. Nice. And we get into a fight with some of these brains. These brains are really not meant to be killed with guns. Of course. It's called Cthulhu. We put up a fight. I think we sort of managed to maybe kill one. It's hard to tell. It sort of dropped down out of sight. But it stopped glowing, so possibly. But we decided to retreat because it's just... It was getting iffy. It was getting very iffy. So we lock up shop, and it's like, well, there's nothing else to do except wait until morning. So let's just get some sleep. So we get some sleep. Thomas is the only one that blocks his window. There were like steel bars over the window, but he actually blocked his window with a wardrobe. The rest of us just sat there, or just laid there. And due to having a failed luck roll, Studs' character was attacked during the night. He woke up to find this brain creature like on top of him. And he was turned into a primordial ooze. So that's nice. So I burst in with the shotgun at the ready. I see this brain creature turning into ooze. So I just let the shotgun fly. And the brain creature like explodes. I don't know if he was like weakened and I just happened to get lucky, or we're not actually sure if I had ever fired off that special shotgun shell that my previous character had prepared. He hadn't loaded it immediately into the gun. He just kept it like with the other shotgun shells he was carrying. So it's possible that my character had inadvertently loaded that without knowing, and that caused it to explode. I'll never know. I never asked Ziggy about it, so maybe he knows, but either way, I caused a brain creature to explode. So after that, it was just Thomas and I then, so we slept through the rest of the night. And for the next couple days, we had this routine of basically just going out and preparing a giant smoke signal using peat. Like, you know, peat, like moss or something that was on the island. So we just went around, we gathered as much as we could, we just kept building this massive smoke signal. It, of course, was never going to lead to our... Actually, it would have led to our rescue eventually. But we died before that happened. Okay, we're getting a little out of our element here. Damn it. So we kept that going for a couple days. Until finally, I think the brain creatures just like amassed their forces and just burst into the lighthouse during the night. And we put up a fight, but we were very quickly overwhelmed, and we were both killed.
I wanna tell you just what you meant to me.
Is this the same? Oh, it's still part of the soundtrack. It's like the ending credits. Have I watched The Link yet? What is The Link? Is that a movie? So the whole thing seemed kind of hopeless, you might say. And when we learned after the fact what we were actually supposed to do to win, it seemed even more hopeless. As in, it seemed very unlikely that we would have figured it out and survived. What we were supposed to do... Damn it. Those little pellets that I had put in the shotgun shell, we were supposed to eat those. If we had eaten them, we would have entered some sort of psychedelic trance. And that alone wouldn't have done much for us. I think maybe that would have only just, like, reduced our sanity. But if we had eaten one... God, these fucking, these micro recorders are so loud. I don't know how to, like, stop it. I have no idea how to make this stop. I'm sure you can probably hear it. It's really damn loud. Okay, well, I'll just talk. If we had eaten a pellet... well, like, standing on one of those protection symbols or, like, wearing something that had it carved into it. If we had had the protection symbol involved while eating it, then we would have, like, been able to control the hallucination or something like that. It apparently would have been somewhat obvious at that point how we could have used that to defeat the brain creatures. The thing is, there are so many Call of Cthulhu scenarios in which eating random pellets you find on the ground at, like, a murder scene would lead to your death or worse. There are so many scenarios where doing what we were supposed to do in this scenario would be really bad. It was just not our first inclination to eat these pellets. Like, we were trying to, like, throw the pellets at some of the brain creatures, or burn them, or put them in shotgun shells, things like that. But eating them is just not usually a good thought. And chances are, if you are going to eat one, you're probably not going to have the protection symbol thing ready to go. So, it seems unlikely. Now, I mentioned the parcel being important to solving the adventure, and that's somewhat true. There are letters in the parcel that hint at what you're supposed to do. In fact, I might be able to read you these letters just to give you an idea of how non-helpful they are. So, the first letter says, the author is quite clear in his warnings against attempting to do so without first having taken specific precautions, to wit, the narcotic pentagon and the Kabbalistic signs of protection. And then it says, he of the Grey Gulf may aid those who call upon him through use of the time pellets. So those are basically your clues. It mentions the Kabbalistic signs of protection, which Thomas sort of latched onto, and he made these signs all over the place because he found them in a book. And it says, through use of the time pellets. Now, you're supposed to interpret that as eating them. But using a pellet can be done in many different ways. And we actually found a chemistry set. So we thought maybe there's something you're supposed to do with, like, chemicals and, making something with the time pellet. Like the powder of Ibn Ghazi or something, something like that. The second letter is so useless. Let me read the second letter. I wish to inform you that respectfully the library can entertain no further correspondence regarding De Vermis Mysteries. Assistance in the matter has previously been provided by Mr. Hardy under the mistaken belief that your interest was purely academic. Your recent letters, however, evidence a desire to effect a practical application of certain aspects of the aforementioned volume, which the library cannot condone nor abet. That's it. That's the letter. That doesn't tell you jack shit. Like, okay, there's something... The guy... one of these Lighthouse Keepers had a practical application in mind for a Mythos tome. That doesn't tell us shit. It's like, oh, there's Mythos stuff going on here. No shit. So, I don't know. I don't know, man. I think our success was very unlikely from the get-go. And the only way that really would have changed is if Ziggy had dropped like a third letter that he made up that said something very specific about what we're supposed to do, and given us a much bigger clue. He could have seen how far off track we were and corrected it. He could have had us, like, maybe manage to kill the brains normally, but usually you don't want to reward that just sort of shotgun and hatchet behavior. So, sadly, none of those characters will make it into Tatters of the King. But maybe that's okay. Maybe if my 4 intelligence character had survived and gone into Tatters, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. So tomorrow, presumably, We'll start by doing character creation for Tatters of the King, which that'll probably take like an hour, maybe less. We'll see. Probably about an hour, and then we'll begin Tatters, which I've actually done the beginning of that one, and I've read the beginning of that one. When I was originally planning to run Tatters of the King way back, I didn't read the whole thing, but I did read through the start, and then Ren ran it, so I got to play the start, and now I get to play the start again. So I'm pretty familiar with that, but that's fine. It's not... There's not that many, like, character choices at the start of the campaign. And we'll see how far this goes. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Board games. The only thing I want to talk about with board game... Oh my god, are we really an hour and 17 minutes in? Jesus Christ, I never shut up. The one thing I want to mention with board games is the Kickstarter for Bloodborne, the board game, is live right now. There has been a Bloodborne card game, which was, I believe, designed by Eric Lang. I still have yet to play it, but I own it. But now there's a Bloodborne board game, also designed by Eric Lang. He apparently really likes Bloodborne. But this is a big, like, this is Cool Mini or Not, big budget, big price tag, big miniatures, all that, big board game. It seems somewhat similar to Dark Souls, the board game, as far as, like, it's miniatures, you're moving through, like, tiles. You're moving through different tiles and having different battles, and then you have a boss battle. That seems to be the format. I didn't really look at much of the gameplay. It was basically like, do I want to buy a board game? At this point in my life, do I want to buy another board game that I know I'll play like once or maybe twice? And it's like, I don't know. It seems so stupid of me to do it. But on the other hand, it's Bloodborne. It's like, I could just have all these miniatures sitting on a shelf. Okay, why not? So, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'm getting all that Bloodborne goodness. And we'll see, maybe it'll be a good game. All I can really hope for is that it's not garbage, so that I can at least enjoy my one playthrough of it. Or maybe two. But I'm assuming the miniatures will be pretty good. So that's already racked up over $2 million, which is pretty good. Speaking of millions of dollars, though, Avengers Endgame came out this weekend and has already made like $1.2 billion worldwide, shattering every record in the books, which is pretty exciting. I saw it Friday afternoon. I was originally planning to see it Tuesday, and I am going to see it again on Tuesday, but I decided I could not wait that long and try and dodge spoilers for that long. I felt, me as a YouTuber on the internet, if I waited till Tuesday, I was going to get spoiled. It was going to happen. I would have to basically disconnect the internet. So, I went and saw it Friday afternoon. I avoided all spoilers until then. I was happy. And it basically exceeded all my expectations, which is pretty insane because it's hard to have higher expectations than people have for this movie. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible. I'm not going to spoil anything, so don't worry. Because basically, I mean, this is not a movie that really needs a review, I think. I don't know how many people are on the fence about seeing Endgame. You know, at this point, you're either like guaranteed to see this in the first couple weeks, if not the first weekend, or you have absolutely no interest and you're never going to see it. I feel like that's basically where we're at this point. Now, future Marvel movies after this point, that'll maybe be the question. Because some people might just be seeing this just because, like, this is an end. It's not the end of all Marvel, but it is an end. And it's meant to be an end to a cycle, to like, a series of phases. Now, I'm certainly on board for anything they ever plan to do. But I could see some people being like, okay, I got an end. This was good. Now I'm done with Marvel. I don't know how many of those people are out there, but I'm sure there are. But either way, I thought it was incredible. I can't wait to see it again on Tuesday. And yeah, it's very good. It's very good. Nothing else to say. All right, I've talked long enough. So check out the SCP-2480 video tomorrow. Please do. And if you don't have a VPN, feel free to sign up for ExpressVPN. We can help each other out. Not to be a shill or anything. I'm just saying. We've got more Final Fantasy 15 and Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. So that is that. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.